recording my voice. Sometimes there's technical difficulties. For example, turn it back on. So if you see the red light is on, please let me know. Because if I'm teaching away, it makes a very terrible video if there's no volume. And you just see, oh, looks like we have a blank screen for 5 minutes because Mr. JR is rambling and nothing's happening. Okay? Sometimes all the lights are off. That's also bad. So it needs the green light. So if you see that, let me know. And then I'll post it on YouTube. And as we get a couple, I can show you some of that, where to find it, and things like that. Okay. So for this arithmetic sequence, determine term 15. Well, to determine term 15, we need to have a formula. We can either get the formula for the general term using the formula that's on the formula sheet that we just saw. The formula on the formula sheet says use term 1 plus d times n minus 1. And from the sequence, you should be able to quite easily tell what term 1 is. That's the easy one. Term 1 is the first term, so we know that we can replace that with a 3. D is the common difference. Is this one you can look at and just see it? Probably, right? What are we adding each time? We're adding 7. And the good thing about the mic is that it doesn't pick up noises that are too far away. So you didn't hear what just happened in the hallway. It's not going to be, unfortunately, on the recording, because that would probably make it more entertaining. So if you ask a question, chances are it might not even pick it up because you're too far away. Okay, so this is finding the formula, finding the general term with the formula that we were given. We could also, right, if you like the shortcut, you're adding 7 each time. So I know that it's going to be 7n plus what works. So pick the second one. What's 7 times 2? 14. What's our term? 10. What would make it work? Minus 4. And if you simplify the formula one, you get the same equation. So we have 7n minus 4, or this one, 3 plus 7, bracket n minus 1. They're the same formula. Now that we have the formula, we want to find term 15. This notation means find the 15th term. And this is something that I've found with sequences that sometimes causes problems for grade 11 students. And it's just a tiny little thing. It's a tiny little thing because this is the first time ever in your math that I can think of where you have a t and an n, which looks like two variables, but it's actually only one thing. But we have to have, we use two things because we use the t to say it's a term. Oh, but there's more than one term, so we need another bit of information to clarify which term. So this t15 means term 15. Okay? The n just stands for its position, and the whole thing stands for its value. So if I want to find term 15, I just have to put 15 in. I'm going to use that formula there because there's less adding and subtracting that I need to do. So I have 7 times 15 minus 4. You could use your calculator if you need to. 105 minus 4 is 101. One thing that's very nice about this textbook as well is you notice that the answer is already at the bottom of the page. So we have a quick place to check. Did we get that one right? Yes, we did for part A. Okay? So this will be a very basic kind of question you're going to answer in this unit. Can you find a specific term? Term 15, term 20, you're going to need to have a formula, and then you plug in 15 for n, because n is the term number that we're looking for. In part B, it says there is a term whose value is 220. And this is where the notation gets a little bit confusing. Because you know there's some term that's equal to 220. On this side, I know there's some term, but can you see that I don't know which one it is? So I don't know the n yet. So whenever something is asking which term, we're really trying to figure out what the n value is. Which number is it? And this, notation-wise, is another place that's sometimes confusing for students the first time. It's like, how can I know what Tn is? Because it's equal to 220, but I don't know n. How is that possible? Well, there is some term that's equal to 220. We just don't know which one it is yet. But what this allows us to do is we can say in our formula, and I'll use the green one again, we know that there's some term that's 220. We just don't know what the n value is that gives us that. And we create an equation now that there's only one thing we don't know. We can add 4 to both sides. Divide both sides. Ooh, I do my mental math. I check the bottom. Yes, good. 32. So now we know that n is 32. The question asks for which term. It didn't say solve for n. So we should probably write some sort of statement to show that we're answering the question that's been asked in the original question. And this is the first thing that we can point to, some of the key things for mathematical literacy. In math, you don't have as much to read as English, but you have to read things multiple times. I'm going to say, when you finish a question, the last thing you should do when you finish a question is read the question again. Because in this one, my answer, n equals 32, wasn't exactly what the question was asking. The question didn't say solve for n. If it said solve for n, you'd be fine there. It said which term. So I needed to write some sort of statement to say that. Okay? Sometimes you reread the question there, like you realize they were actually asking me 2 things. I only answered one of them. I got so excited about answering the first thing. I got an answer, and very typical, you get one answer and you're like, I'm done, I'll move on. It's good to read that question again to find out, make sure that you've answered all of the things. Because again, you want your mark in math to represent your abilities in math, not your abilities in being lazy that you didn't read a question, right? Not your abilities in misreading things. How many people have sometimes, like, it had a 3 in the question, but for whatever reason, you decided to write an 8? That's happened, right? You're just like, oh, I just decided to change the numbers for no apparent reason. Okay, so with these examples, what's going to happen in class? We just finished an example. I'm going to get you to go back up to the top of the question, and above the question, I'm going to get you to write down number 6, number 15, and number 18. Okay? And I'm going to put a star on number 18 saying that it's a little bit harder. If you're not getting 18, you can ask questions, but don't go crazy, because it is a little bit harder. Then if you turn a couple pages, the nice thing about this textbook is once the lesson is done, the homework is right after. So the homework starts on page 8. And what I would recommend is you wrote 16, 15 and 18 above question number 2. Then go to your exercises and circle question 6, circle question 15, circle question 18. Sometimes I'm going to give you time right after we do it to try some. What's wonderful about that is that you will be able to see right away, do I get this or don't I get this? Sometimes, like today, due to time, we're going to move on and do some more questions and leave these for homework. Sometimes when I give you time in class to do them, it won't be enough time to finish all of them. It'll give you some time to start, give you some time to ask questions, but then I'm going to need your help that when I refocus you and say, okay, it's time for example 3, turn back, we'll be able to do that. So we're going to do example 3 right away. Sometimes I start, yeah, I'll do it. Usually I start a new video, so here we go.